Okay, magical number generator. Which moment am I doing today? 7. Birthday. Sure. Why not? Oh, that looks like fun. Is that a bouncy castle thing? I love the bouncy castles. I miss bouncy castles. It was a pleasant afternoon. The sun shone brightly and the breeze tugged lightly at the balloons strung around the park. You and Cove had just been dropped off at Miranda Eckert's birthday party. You didn't really know Miranda. Last year was the first time you had a class with her, and everyone at school knew her as quiet. The shy girl stuck to her own friend group like glue. It had been a surprise that she was having such a big party. You looked around the expansive park, a spacious recreation center in the next town over, and noticed the bouncy castle. Miranda had a bit of a reputation for not caring if she acted mature like other teens sometimes did. It made a certain amount of sense that her party would match that. I mean... I don't... Yeah, I'm just going to be honest. I don't have an opinion of her yet. Miranda was a stranger for the most part. What were you supposed to think of a person you didn't know? You hadn't had a choice in coming here today. Your moms insisted on it after you got the invitation, as did Cove's mom and dad. Okay. So both you and he were driven over to the next town with presents in tow. All the parents had been pretty firm about going to a birthday if you'd been invited. You wondered if it was an adult thing. Probably. I probably would have felt out of place. Nothing seemed to welcome you. You stood next to Cove and stared out at the chaos with a butterfly in your stomach. Just a singular butterfly. Cove made a small noise, which caught your attention. He looked around, scanning the area. He fidgeted with his gift in hand.
So...
Any idea what we're supposed to do with these?
I mean, there seems to be a spot at the end of the table there for the gifts. You looked at your own present and then towards the seating area. There was a table filled with snacks and drinks, supplies for various party games. Past all that, you spotted one table in the back that seemed to have a truckload of gifts. You pointed it out to Cove. Presents are over there. We probably should drop off our stuff. Cove nodded with a smile and turned to where you gestured. He saw it too.
Cool.
You and Cove began to walk over to the present table, flattening the well-trimmed grass beneath your feet. You walked past groups of people. Classmates in semicircles, broken up into the usual friend groups, chatted away. You, or maybe Cove, received the occasional greeting or friendly nod. However, as you passed by even more people that you had never seen before, you became aware there were more strangers here than not. It was more crowded than you expected. Miranda Eckert, the quiet girl, was hosting the most populated birthday party you had been to in a long time. You looked at the new faces and thought you saw something of Miranda in them. Cousins, nieces, or nephews, maybe? Parties could be a big deal in her family. The both of you reached the table. You set your gift down in an empty space, brushing some confetti aside, and Cove placed his gently next to it. He looked at the present thoughtfully.
Hey.
What did you get her?
Before you had a chance to answer, Cove opened his mouth again and tapped his gift.
I found this sparkly backpack. I figured she could use it for school or a trip or something.
Your moms had taken you out shopping the other day. You'd searched through the store and ultimately... a stuffed animal, a necklace and bracelet set, a light-hearted adventure book, a yarn craft kit that made a toy. That sounds cool. You let your moms pick. Your moms didn't appreciate what you had picked and chose something else. Oof. At 13, I was really into, like, the whole necklace bracelet stuff, so probably that. You thought you remembered Miranda wore jewelry, simple thin bracelets strung up and down her arm. Hopefully she'd enjoy the pieces you chose. The silver-colored bracelet had different pink charms, jangling hearts and kittens, while the princess-length necklace had a similar heart for its centerpiece. It was a cute set, much more adorable than adult. You described it to Cove briefly, and he had no objections. Nice.
Not bad.
He brushed his hands against the sides of his pants.
I really hope Miranda likes her gifts, but I think we both did good.
With that, he gave you a sunny grin. You touched the gift one more time and then stepped away. Without the direction of needing to put stuff away, the two of you weren't sure what to do next. You felt a little awkward, and Cove shrunk in on himself as he looked around. There were more guests heading to the present table, so you turned away and wandered over to a nearby tree where you wouldn't be in the way. From there, you both inspected the area and planned the next step. This is so funny, because this is basically how me and my husband are at every party. It's like, okay, guest sign-in, presents, cards, where's like the furthest corner where I can like be out of the way and we can kind of figure out what we want to do from there. Every time. You were glad that Cove had been invited too. At least you had his company in this unfamiliar place. You watched him and he gave you a nervous grin. It reassured you a little and you smiled back. What next? Cove did not appreciate being put on the spot. He was just as unsure as you were.
Birthday party stuff?
Probably should find the birthday girl at some point and wish her a happy birthday, right? At some point, I think. Unless you're waiting for, like, the actual singing part? I don't know. It didn't seem to be time for cake, what with people still arriving. Nothing else seemed to be organizing yet either. He noticed that himself and tried again.
We could find Miranda.
That was an idea. It made sense to greet the birthday girl. Thank you, Cove. Okay, we could say hello.
Wish her happy birthday.
Ask her what she wants people to do.
Sounds good.
Alright, we got a plan. With that point, it was decided. The Miranda hunt had begun. You wandered around. Anytime you saw someone with Miranda's hair color, you got a little closer, but more than once it turned out not to actually be her.
Hey, look!
Finally, he pointed over to the real Miranda. She smiled slightly when you both approached, but ducked her head. She seemed a little overwhelmed with being the center of attention today. Oh my goodness, hello, cutie! You're adorable.
Hi, Cove. Hi, Molly.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Thanks. I'm really glad you could come.
You all stood awkwardly. Miranda did seem genuinely happy, but there was still a distance between you.
This is a great-looking party.
Thank you.
Is there something we need to do, or should we just hang out?
Oh, well, you can talk to people if you want. There are games that are gonna start soon. And the bounce house should open later if you feel like jumping. Then, after that, it's cake and present time. We'll have ice cream, too. After that is when people will start going home. I hope that's okay with you guys.
Cove nodded. He seemed a little more confident about the situation now. Thank you for telling us. You mutually struggled to keep eye contact. She still wasn't completely comfortable in the situation, and it was hard for you, too. Miranda waited there, and you became hyper-aware of the silence forming. You heard a shout for a Randy, and Miranda brightened up, a total 180 with how stiff she had been with you.
I gotta talk to some more people. Bye!
Bye, cutie. The birthday girl ran off to her friend, leaving you and Cove with at least a little more idea of what to expect. You both glanced at each other wordlessly. All that was left now was finding something to fill time until the activities began. Yeah, haha, no. Either this or this. Yeah, quiet spot to sit. Cove followed you to the edge of the party. He pointed out a bench near a tree and you both sat down. Perfect. It was far enough away from the crowd that it was peaceful as long as you blocked out the sound of kids shrieking. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed over the crowd. The constant buzz of conversation dropped as one of the adults, maybe Miranda's dad, asked the kids to gather around because it was game time.
Huh.
I wonder what's gonna happen.
Either this or this. Make a joke. We're gonna play high-stakes poker. It's obvious.
Obvious, huh?
Look at this crowd. Most of the guests were teenagers around your age, but there were also quite a few adults and some younger kids. Cove nodded sagely at a group of little kids.
Yeah, these are high rollers.
Mm-hmm. The adult announced that the children under 10 had the first turn on the bounce house. For everyone else, it was time to play pin the tail on the donkey. Cove raised his eyebrows. He was surprised, for sure. I mean, I was never a fan of pin the tail on the donkey. I don't like, being spun around with no idea where I am. But I wouldn't have been like, what's happening here? I don't know. I guess I'd be a little ambivalent. I don't know how this is gonna go. You wondered how Pin the Tail would even work. There was a lot of guests here and only one donkey poster. Most of the guests were a little on the older side to even be playing the game. You reluctantly joined the line since that was what you were supposed to do and you didn't feel like arguing. The donkey in question was a cartoony poster with big eyes that looked more like ping pong balls. It was positioned a few feet above the ground on a tree trunk. The teen who arrived first was blindfolded and then spun around. He was nudged to the sign and away from the other kids so he wouldn't stick someone with the tail instead. Unfortunately for him, he placed the tail on the donkey's head like some kind of bizarre earring. He wouldn't be winning that far from the target. His next opponent did far better by landing it on the donkey's back. The spectators clapped politely and the line moved up. More teens tried their hand at it. Some got closer than others, but no one had gotten it perfect yet. Soon, it was Cove's turn. He was blindfolded and spun just like the others. At this point, it was a close match and everyone was watching with bated breath. Cove approached the donkey and stuck the tail on without any hesitation. Cove stood back and removed his blindfold, cheering when he saw how close he was. He turned his head over his shoulder and grinned at you.
Your turn.
Alright, my turn. With the blindfold on, the bright park became utterly dark. As you were spun around, the sounds around you seemed to get louder. At least you could tell the direction of the bounce house from the shrieks of the younger children. You stopped spinning and stepped forward, tail in hand. It was time to give it a stab. Directly in front, to the right, to the left. To the right, to the left. Placed it up, placed it down. I am already short, I'm not placing it down. I always tend to kind of go to the right in this game, from what I remember as a kid. You pressed the tail into the target and stepped back. You took your blindfold off to check your results. There was some more clapping from the audience. The tail wasn't too far off. Behind you there was a particularly enthusiastic "Ooh!" and a few people mentioned how close you got. You smiled and looked back at Cove. He seemed amused. His tail wasn't off by much either, and you couldn't tell which of you was winning. They were just too nearby each other. Nice. A few more kids took their turn. One girl managed to somehow pin the tail on the opposite side of the tree. You were pretty sure it had to be on purpose. With the line empty, the game was finally over. The adult running thing started to inspect the donkey. At this point, the sign was more tails than donkey. In the end, someone you didn't know was announced as the winner. You and Cove both exchanged a look, even as you clapped politely. Rigged.
Huh.
He looked back at the board.
I was so close, too.
I would have been disappointed, too. As much as I'm like, I don't really like this game, my competitive side would have came out. Maybe next time. He watched the winner and considered whether to say anything to them. He hesitated, however, and ended up not approaching the teen. An older teen walked up, tall enough to tower over you and Cove. You felt a little intimidated by this stern-faced teenager until she started to speak. Her voice was low, but friendlier than her tough frown would suggest.
Hi, I'm handing out party favors. Do you want one?
She showed you party hats. She insisted they were the key to a true partying mood. She had two options. Either a colorful headband with two tiny party hats arranged almost like ears, or a tiara with a star on it. They were both very festive.
It's okay.
No thanks.
You knew the teen hadn't actually glared at him. Her default facial expression just seemed grim. I would have picked the crown. You pointed to the crown, and the teenager passed it over to you with the solemnness of crowning a monarch. I mean, if Cove doesn't want one, I'm not going to force him to do it. Both of you had made your decisions, and that was it. The unknown teenager nodded approvingly at you both and went to pass out hats to more people. You put the party hat on your head with a smile, and it fit well. It was surprisingly comfortable.
It really completes your look. When did you get so fashionable?
He smirked, and you just adjusted your new accessory. Some people just don't get it. It does look very good on me, thanks. You looked him straight in the eye, and he seemed unsure of how to handle that reaction to his statement. He floundered for a second until he came up with a response.
You don't have to brag.
You struck a pose, and he rolled his eyes. Heh. After that, the people in charge quickly set up the next game. Teenagers milled about until they were told to find partners. You tried to listen to the rules, straining your ears to listen to the adult announcing what you were supposed to do. It was a simple game. One person in a pair would throw candy while the other had to catch it in their mouth. If they caught it, the pair would move on to the next round where everyone would take a step back, and the former catcher would become the thrower. The game would continue, the players getting further and further until one set of partners were the only ones left standing, or everyone lost in a round. About half of the guests had already found partners. They moved fast. You noticed Cove had his eyes on you.
Could we be partners?
Neither of you were all that familiar with anyone else here. It'd be the safe choice to pair up.
I don't want to play.
Of course! This is actually eerily similar to it was like a community barbecue that I went to kind of around this age. I might have been a little older, like maybe 15, but I kind of think I was about 13, 14. And it was very similar to this, with like a lot of games like sack racing, three-legged race, the hard-boiled egg race. I remember there was baseball and soccer as well. But I spent the entire day with the guy who was my childhood friend crush at the time, and this is like eerily similar, where it's just like, well, I guess we're partnering up the entire day. So that's kind of interesting. Kind of a weird coinky-dink. Let's do it, partner.
Cool.
He beamed, and you started wondering about your respective candy-catching capabilities, indeed. 2 words, depth perception. 2 rows of players facing each other formed. Cove tilted his head towards them, and you started to head over. You both lined up directly in front of each other. It took a while to pass out the candy. You were handed a small bag of gummies that smelled strongly fruity. You noticed Cove took it upon himself to do a taste test of a red one across from you.
They're not bad.
Yeah, I would try one for myself. You ended up grabbing a purple gummy. It was sweet, and you guessed it was supposed to be grape flavored, but it was mostly just really sugary. Every candy ever. And then it was time to begin. Cove's row was set to throw first. He smiled nervously, his eyes wide with seriousness. You smiled back shyly, and Cove nodded. The game was on. The adult in charge shouted for the throwers to go. You and Cove were only a couple feet away from each other. With Cove's careful toss, you caught the candy easily. Nice. Like you, most of the other players moved on to the next round. There were few gaps in the rows as everyone took a step back. The round was harder with pairs further apart, but not overly so. It could be done if both partners tried. You made sure it missed. No, I would do my best. My very best. Not to say I would actually do it well, but I would do my best. You carefully plucked a gummy from the bag and felt the weight. You shifted it in your hand a couple times for practice and then told Cove you were ready. You went for an underhand throw, careful to aim for Cove's mouth. The blue candy arced and landed perfectly in Cove's mouth. Yes! He chewed it twice and then smiled widely. You could tell Cove was genuinely pleased to make it through another round. You were happy as well. I have a feeling like we're both competitive. The next round began and you took another step back. Cove was even further away now, but he made an okay sign. He was in this to win it. Around you, the once packed rows of players had thinned out some. You wondered how many rounds everyone had left in them. Cove swung his arm and made eye contact with you. You nodded, and the green candy flew towards you. You refused to have a green candy, of all things? Nah, 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 nah. I'm gonna do my best. You followed the arc of the candy and opened your mouth wide. It had a slight spin on it, and you tilted your head to the left to compensate. You bit down on the candy, grinning with your victorious catch. It tasted sweet and vaguely like a Slurpee. Interesting. The green ones are always an interesting flavor.
Yeah! Molly!
Cove was thrilled. He was entirely invested in the game at this point. So cute. You and Cove were still in the game. You knew this was the final round. Only a few other pairs were still left. Cove was determined to win. You could see it in the clench of his jaw, the careful way he watched you. You thought this was kind of funny. I equally wanted to win. You made it this far. It was time to go all the way. You looked around at your remaining competitors and prepared yourself. Cove gave you a firm grin and you prepared to throw. Your fingers grabbed an orange gummy from the bag. It felt solid in your grasp, even if your hand was starting to get sticky from touching all the sugary sweets. Cove leaned his face towards you and bent his knees, ready to catch. The time came. You looked at the candy, and then Cove. What kind of monster is doing this? I'm trying my best! The candy flew like a missile straight towards him. He positioned himself effortlessly for it. Cove caught the candy just like that. A wide grin spread on his face as he victoriously chomped down on the candy.
Yes!
Along with the chair, he jumped up in excitement and pumped one arm. You look to your left and then to your right. You see the few remaining pairs walking away, commiserating over their losses. With some shock, you realized that you and Cove were the only ones who made it that round. You won! Yay! You watched the moment Cove clicked into the same realization. His face brightened like sunshine, and he jogged over to close the distance between you. You stepped closer to meet him halfway. Yeah, I mean, this I would love to do, but high fives all the way! You put your hand up and Cove high-fived you with a satisfying smack. You'd won this together! He giddily stomped his feet in place in front of you as though he couldn't contain his energy. So cute!
We did it!
And then he wrapped an arm around your neck, pulling you closer into a celebratory side hug, and then I became deceased from happiness. You adjusted the hat that had nearly fallen off throughout the event. Woo! The game runner strolled over and merrily gave you both a bunch more candy on top of letting you keep the gummy bags. It was quite the collection. With the candy toss over, you were going to need something else to do. You didn't have to wait long. You heard someone in the crowd shout that the bounce house was officially open for the older kids. You and Cove shared a look. Cove smiled and you knew he wanted in. That's my boy! Yes, bouncy castle! Bouncy castle! You both ran over to the bouncy castle and kicked your shoes off. You crawled into the inflated castle with Cove hot on your heels. There were a couple other teens inside already. You started to get a feel for bouncing. Cove hopped from the middle to the side and back. Just after you landed from a particularly high jump, someone else snuck in. It was the birthday girl herself.
Hi, Miranda.
Hello! Miranda looked happy. She waved both her hands at you with a megawatt grin. Cute.
I hope you're having fun.
She hopped around with her hands in front of her like a kangaroo. It was a surprisingly effective way to clear distance in the bounce house. She then jumped high, kicking both her legs out to the side and touched the tips of her toes with her fingers. Very impressive.
Wow.
Miranda hadn't run out of tricks yet. She jumped a couple more times, gaining height before doing a backflip and tucking into a ball. She managed to land on her feet but didn't stick the landing. She tumbled back and fell on her butt. Cove clapped, and Miranda inclined her head almost like a bow. She was back to jumping in no time.
You're so good at this.
She bounced close enough to the two of you to talk without shouting across the way. Cove's bouncing slowed down to accommodate their conversation.
My family gets these every year. And we have a trampoline in the backyard.
That explains it. That's really cool. Miranda giggled a bit and then her eyes sparkled.
Hey, I can launch someone if you want. If I jump in front of you, then your bounce will go higher.
Okay, launch me.
Sure.
Miranda leaped over to you, her excitement clear on her face. Cove watched with interest. She explained more clearly how this was supposed to work. You got ready to bounce on her cue.
3, 2, 1.
The moment she came down, you jumped high. The force of her, just as she had said, helped launch you up. The air rushed past your face, and then you were coming back down. Your feet hit the bounce house hard enough to help launch Miranda up a little as well. She giggled some more, and the two of you took turns bouncing each other up. Cove clapped or offered suggestions, but it was becoming clear that he wanted a turn too. Miranda invited him to join and tried to synchronize your bounces to launch Cove up super high. The first time resulted into everyone crashing down in a pile of laughs. By the fifth attempt, Cove managed to catch some serious airtime.
Woo!
You all had fun bouncing around. You twirled, Miranda did stunts. Cove futilely tried to touch the highest tip in the castle ceiling. You and Cove chatted to Miranda more than you ever had at school. She truly was the queen of this bouncy castle. Whenever someone did something cool, everyone would cheer. If you fell, the others would help you up. Nice. Eventually, more people wanted to take turns in the bounce house, so you and Cove left. As you slipped on your shoes, you saw Miranda get drawn into conversation with a group of adults. She would be talking to them for a while. You and Cove decided to take a break and hydrate. You went to the party table and grabbed some ice water. Cove handed you a party noisemaker he picked up from the same table. He blew on his, and it made a funny sound when it unrolled. Cove downed his drink in a couple gulps. He had gotten pretty into bouncing, after all. Looks great. You were still sipping on your water when Cove blew on his noisemaker again. Then again. And again. It was almost a tune. You don't recognize any particular melody, but a noisemaker also isn't an instrument. The noise cut through the hum of the other party guests, loud and noticeable. Yeah, I would have done this. You blew hard enough to unfurl the paper completely straight. It jutted towards Cove, almost tapping his chin. Cove wasn't going to let that stand. He retaliated and blew his back at you. It nearly touched your nose. It was a game now. Both of you tried to land a light hit on the other. Cove managed to get your chin, while you scored right in between his eyes.
Oh, great. You people again.
Oh my god, Jeremy? What are you doing here? Who invited this kid to the party? Someone vaguely familiar shouted, and you snapped your head to the side. Cove's noisemaker dropped from his mouth. Why would... Jeremy, if you don't like us, why would you come and talk to us? Come on. Come on. You know you like us. The speaker stepped up, and there was no doubt. It was Jeremy, that mean boy you met at the start of summer. Oh, hey, it's the bowl cut kid. Gosh. Not a conversation I would be looking forward to by any means. I don't think I would have done this. I wouldn't have done that. That's mean. Possibly this, not this, not this, maybe this. I'm gonna flip a coin. Heads for uncomfortable, tails for politeness. Hiya! Tails! Alright. The coin seems to like XOXO Droplets characters. Hi, how are you? Your greeting went unacknowledged and Jeremy's scowl didn't change. He's so small.
Why are you here?
Cove's tone was defensive. You watched Jeremy's face turn slack as if Cove's question was the idiocy above all idiocies. Didn't I already explain this? It's your parents' fault. He hadn't, so both you and Cove exchanged the look. Do you have memory loss, or are you really that stupid? Seriously.
I didn't walk here.
My parents brought me. Apparently I couldn't just stay inside like I wanted. No, they insisted that I get out and enjoy the day and have fun on vacation. Blah, blah, blah. He said, enjoy the day and have fun on vacation, like some people would say, scrub the entire bathroom, or listen to an off-key singer for 10 hours. They found a park, because I hate the beach. Too bad I also hate parks. Ugh, it's dirty here. They don't know anything. Oh, and then they saw this stupid party and decided to bother some adults by asking what was going on. They think maybe we could be included. It's moronic. Get it now? That's how my parents are. Annoying and embarrassing. Why would anybody want strangers at their birthday? Why can't they ever just leave things alone? Okay, you know what? I'm on Jeremy's side here. It is... I don't know how you can have the cojones to go up to strangers and ask if your kid can join in on a birthday party. Like, I could never, ever do that. And if somebody came up to me, I wouldn't want a random kid at my child's birthday party. Or if I was the kid in question, I wouldn't want a stranger at my birthday party either. So it's really... I can get what Jeremy's saying here. I think Jeremy's got the right of it. He huffed loudly, and his eyes shot daggers at some grown-ups that presumably were his parents. I realize I'm probably not, like, that's... I may be in the minority here when it comes to feeling that way, but let me know, guys. But how would you feel if a random kid wanted to join your birthday party? Or if you have kids, how would you feel if parents approached you and were like, can my child be included in the birthday party of your child? I'm curious now. And all you can do is complain about it. Sucks to be you. Yeah, I mean, I'd just be honest. Yeah, that's really awkward. You don't have to say it back to me. I know! Yeah. Jeremy's eyes slipped away from you to take in the rest of the park for a bit. It was a little awkward. It was possible he didn't know what to do. But then he spoke again. Well, I can see why he came to talk to us. At least he knows who you two are. Everybody else here is definitely a stranger.
So dumb.
How can people really go around in those embarrassing party hats? Do they think it's fun or something? How could a human being be so dumb? Excuse you, I'm wearing one of those. Jeremy shook his head and glanced at Cove's lack of hat. I guess that's one brain point for you. It's just kind of nice to do party stuff. Jeremy scoffed, unimpressed. The expression on his face was nasty as he spoke. I am not surprised an empty-headed person like you would think that. Jeremy looked you over, completely dismissive. It's so rude you can't help but feel offended. Cove's face hardened. He seemed more offended than when anyone actually insulted him personally. Ooh.
Hey!
Just because you don't know how to be happy doesn't mean no one else does. And it's not our fault if you hate everything. It's not okay for you to take it out on Molly.
Aw, thank you.
She isn't doing anything wrong. You are.
Jeremy seemed unfazed by Cove's defense and sniffed. Molly can humiliate herself on her own. She doesn't need you to step in and do it for her. Man, if I had the cojones to do any of these... But honestly, it would have been one of these two. I think you're gonna get punched by Cove if you don't shut up, Jeremy. Jeremy, you're cruising for a bruising, my friend. I'm gonna flip a coin to determine my emotional state at this time. Heads for shocked, tails for tears. Hiya! Tails, Jeremy, you made me cry. Again! Tears started to moisten your cheeks. Jeremy showed no sign of remorse. He just grimaced. How are you gonna live in the real world if this is too much? You're a dick! You're ruining someone's birthday. I'm gonna find your parents. Don't say you left his reaction, you said nothing. I did tend to, when I would cry, I'd end up having like one of three reactions. Either I'd start sobbing uncontrollably, I would get really angry, or I'd start laughing in an attempt to cover up the fact that I was crying. So, I'm gonna go with the laughter one. People were starting to watch what was going down. Your argument wasn't exactly quiet at this point.
Why don't you just leave us alone if we're so awful?
Jeremy glared even more and huffed.
Dumbasses.
Talking to you is pointless. He stalked off like the last time you saw him, muttering under his breath. Always a pleasure. Cove sighed in relief after Jeremy was gone. He relaxed, but only for a moment. He noticed just how much attention you'd drawn from the other guests. Luckily, it hadn't gone on long enough to get a real crowd. A concerned adult in a blue button-up shirt approached you and asked who that was and if everyone was alright.
It's okay.
I'm fine.
Cove looked at you cautiously, asking just as much as the adult if you were okay. Yeah, I'm fine too, thank you. The concerned adult lingered for a few seconds, but nodded and left you alone. The Jeremy fiasco was officially over. I assume that he was not allowed into the birthday party? Phew. Cove rubbed his eyes, clearly ready to put all that nonsense behind him. Then he started laughing. It was a surprise laugh, breaking out of his chest without any actual joy. It was nervous and disbelieving and all the complex emotions brought about by one meeting with Jeremy. Aw, he looks so sad.
I can't believe it.
He spoke in fits and starts.
How can Jeremy be like that? He shouted at us, he barely knows us, and it was at a birthday party for somebody he's never met.
Jeremy is totally nuts. You wish you had done something more, you hoped you would never see him again. You weren't sure how to feel. You were just happy Jeremy was gone. You felt sad that he was so mean. Yeah, he's a nut job. I don't understand him at all. Cove seemed to think about his next words carefully before he spoke.
I don't think it matters what we do around him. Jeremy's just gonna yell no matter what. We shouldn't worry about it. Do you want to tell your moms? About Jeremy, I mean? He always picks a fight. Maybe they'd know how to handle someone like him.
Thanks for asking. I do love my moms. They have good advice. Yeah, you know what? I'll mention it to them. Because maybe they do have some suggestions. Hopefully it's not I'm going over there to punch that kid in the mouth. Mom might. Mom would probably hold her back. I'll let them know everything.
Alright.
Finally, you bent over to pick up the noisemaker that Cove dropped when Jeremy appeared. It might be too dirty to use now, but you didn't want to leave it there. He accepted it softly when you offered the little favor back to him.
Thanks, Molly. I like how we can be there for each other. It makes me feel better about that kind of stuff when it happens.
Aww! That's so sweet!
Yeah.
Cove suggested that you should find a seat at one of the tables. It was almost cake time and he wanted to be prepared. You must prepare for the serving of cake. It was a good reminder that the party wasn't over yet. I guess. I think I see somewhere free there, if that works for you. You and Cove tried to settle down after the last event. You took seats across from one another at one of the park tables. There were a few attempts to chat, but for the most part you simply watched the adults run around to set up the cake cutting. There was a minor panic when who you assumed was Miranda's dad apparently forgot the lighter for the candles. He and another man went through and started asking the other adults for matches or lighters. They weren't having any luck until the grim-faced teenager who had been passing out party hats pulled a green lighter out of the ice cream cooler. Out of the ice cream cooler? Why the lighter was put in the cooler remained a mystery, but with party hat girls find, it was time to get things going again. Miranda sat at the head of the longest table. A large chocolate cake was set in front of her. Good choice. She lit all 14 candles with the cooler lighter with a big smile. The adults started singing Happy Birthday and the rest of the guests joined in. At the end of the song, Miranda blew out the candles with a dedicated huff. She closed her eyes and you saw her silently mouth something. Maybe it was a birthday wish. Miranda cut her own slice and one of the grown-ups took over cutting the cake. Another adult passed around plates of cake slices with a scoop of vanilla ice cream to the guests. Eventually, the cake got around to you and Cove. Cove was pleased with the treat in general. The cake looked rich and moist. It smelled quite chocolatey. I only want the cake. No ice cream. Makes my cake soggy, and then it's just, I don't like the texture difference between ice cream and cake. I just want the cake. You shoved the ice cream to the side and focused on the cake. You stabbed your pink plastic fork into the slice and tried a bite. It was a fantastic chocolate cake. It had a rich chocolate filling and was moist inside.
Hey, I'll take what you don't want.
Oh, you will? Cove eyed you hopefully, and you could hear his legs swinging against the tablecloth hanging over the side of the table. No, this is mine. Go for it, man. I'd be internally like, oh my god, is this like an indirect kiss moment? Ah! I would've, okay? Cove transferred what you didn't want to his plate and then handed yours back.
Thanks.
He beamed, and you felt a little better that your unwanted dessert would still be enjoyed. Cove then took his fork and started mashing up some of his cake. When the cake resembled a pile of crummy chunks, he started mixing it into the ice cream. The melted parts of the ice cream made a kind of chocolate cake soup. I probably would have done this. I've been like, huh. You were puzzled at what he was doing. Cove paid no mind.
Vanilla ice cream is not good by itself, and I'm gonna eat it with the cake either way, so why not put them together now?
Makes sense. I'm really glad I gave up the ice cream now that I know it was vanilla.
Things like ice cream cakes exist. Putting stuff together is normal.
Good point, good point. Cove contentedly chowed down on his concoction. One advantage to his mix is that the ice cream seemed to catch most of the crumbs that would usually fall from eating a cake. Okay. Unlike some of the kids around him, Cove's shirt remained clean. You started eating your dessert in earnest. You enjoyed yourself plenty. Cove suddenly put his fork down on his plate and stared up to the sky with a faraway expression. You checked, but didn't see anything attention-grabbing.
This ice cream is better than those ones in cups. You know, with the little wooden spoons. But I still kinda want that instead.
Aw. You remembered what kind he was talking about. Oh, yeah, like the ones handed out at the barbecue before the fireworks happened.
Right.
Cove smiled nostalgically at the thought. You could picture a younger Cove for a moment with the same look in his eyes. Yes, nostalgia. Alright. You want a bite of my dessert? The dessert was held unsteadily on your plastic fork, and you had to be careful as you moved it towards him. Cove raised his eyebrows for a half a second before the realization came. Laughter burst out of him.
Yeah.
Ah, the blush.
I remember that part too.
Yeah. I... Take my dessert. Your shared laughter attracted the attention of some of the other party guests. It took a moment to compose yourselves and get back to your dessert. I could have been pushy, but I would have chickened out after that. Miranda then started to open her gifts. She systematically attacked the mountain of presents like a pro. She checked for any cards and read them loudly before opening a gift. She smiled at every present, including the ones you and Cove got her. You were glad the presents were accepted. It took time, but eventually Miranda got through all the gifts. She was very sweet and polite throughout it all. Aw, heck yeah, back in the bouncy castle! The party went until the sun began to set. By that point, most of everything had settled down and people had begun to leave. Any of the guests whose parents had stayed for the party were already gone, except for Miranda's family. Only a few kids still waiting for their parents to come get them remained, you and Cove included. Miranda's family were cleaning up, and as a guest, neither you nor Cove were supposed to help with that. Instead, you both had decided to take it easy in the bouncy castle. It was somewhere out of the way where you could casually wait for your ride. Miranda had also elected to hang out with you. You weren't even bouncing anymore. Cove laid on his side with his back to a wall, and Miranda sat across from him with her legs stretched out. You also made yourself comfortable. It was nice and warm in the little building. It also felt like you had some privacy, which was nice. You could all speak openly here.
Thanks for coming.
She looked down but continued shyly.
It's been really cool to get to hang out with you a little bit.
Thanks for letting me come. I didn't think I'd be invited.
Thanks from me too, Miranda. Miranda just smiled a little more.
So...
Did you notice anything happening earlier? With some people you don't know showing up?
She had to think about his question a little. It was apparent that she didn't have an encounter with Jeremy since there was no instant recognition.
I heard about something. Some other parents were talking to my parents when their kid came and forced them to leave the park.
Interesting. Jeremy's like, alright, let's go, get out of here, go, shoo, shoo. She tilted her head to the side, finding it weird, but also not important.
Then everyone had cake and ice cream.
Cove smiled uncomfortably.
That's good.
He was clearly worried that the Jeremy confrontation could have gotten to her. Luckily, it didn't seem that anyone had overheard or passed along Jeremy's cruel words. Phew. Cove rolled over on his back and sighed contentedly. Miranda seemed confused, but wasn't going to push. Yep, bouncing time. You clambered to your feet and hopped in place. Miranda lit up and followed your lead. You both started leaping around and trying tricks. Cove sighed and attempted to stay down, but you could see the moving floor was jostling him. He wasn't gonna get any rest down there.
Cove, could we launch you? We're almost bouncing you from over there. I want to see what would happen if we actually tried to on purpose.
Cove agreed and rolled to the center of the bounce house. You and Miranda took your places on either side of him and started bouncing. It was hard to synchronize your jumps exactly. Once you got your timing down, you were able to launch Cove a few feet in the air while he remained in a cross-legged position. All three of you giggled. Eventually, Cove decided to get up for real and join the act of jumping. You played around together until it was time to go home. At the end of the day, you thought it had been quite the party. Indeed, quite the party. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And Miranda's a cutie pie. That was great. That was just like a really all-around good, wholesome time. Jeremy excluded, of course. Alright, guess we'll see what happens next time.